O daughters of Zion, O Abraham's sons, hear the words of your father, hear his promise of love. I will make you a blessing, so count the stars if you can. You will be a great nation. I will give you this land. I will bring you back home. I'll bring you back home, oh my children. You will no longer roam, lost and alone in the night. There is nothing on earth that could take you away. Once I gather you under my wings, I will bring you all back home again. Though you've wandered like strangers to the ends of the earth, I will send you a Savior. I will finish my work.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I should put the Shabbat Shalom up there. There it is.
There you go.
Okay.
Now it's official.
All right, this week we're studying Korach, which is Korah straight out in English. Paul likes to hook us up with stuff, right? You guys watch much Brad Scott?
Oh yeah.
Well, he has a principle of the seed teaching,
Yeah.
and the very first thing he says is Shalom. I'm Brad Scott and you're not. So he's put on here.
Yeah.
I'm Wade and you're not. So quick shout out to Paul there for
No,
hooking us
you're
up.
weight number 2.
Yeah.
You already had a weight here before you.
All right. So this parasha is number 38. It's in Numbers or Bamidbar, which means wilderness. 16:1 to 18:32. Not a very long one. The Haftarah is in 1 Samuel 11:14. One of the reasons I think that 1 Samuel was chosen for this is in this Moses doesn't intercede, right? What he does is more bow in his face and say, "Hey, yeah, don't respect what they're doing. I haven't helped them. I haven't taken one donkey," or you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 Samuel, when the people were rebelling against him, says almost exactly the same thing.
There's a lot of repeats throughout the whole scriptures.
So he also in here has the Shema, which we've already read. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit here and there. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, with all your might. And these words I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. In Deuteronomy 6:25 says it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do this commandment before the Lord our God as he has commanded us. That's somewhat of what was being taught in service today, correct? So Josiah found the book. We should have been doing righteous, and because your heart's turned to do righteous, I'll let you go in peace.
And what we're doing today.
Yes.
Go back and checking this out.
And he also in Deuteronomy 30, he says, "For this is the commandment I command you today. It is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will ascend to heaven for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. But the word is very near you. It is in your heart and in your mouth, so that you can do it." Paul in Romans 10 quotes this, saying, Moses writes about righteousness which is of the law. The man who does those things shall live by them. That's a quote from Leviticus 18:5. But the righteousness of faith speaks in this way. Do not say in your heart, who will ascend to heaven? That is, to bring Christ down, or who will descend into the abyss? That is, to bring Christ up from the dead. Well, what does it say? The word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of faith that we preach. That's something I've always found interesting that I've missed most of my life. The righteousness of faith speaks in this way. And then he quotes Deuteronomy. And then he ends it saying, this is the word of faith that we preach. In 2 Timothy 3:16, all scripture is God-breathed and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and training in righteousness, that a man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. In 1 John 3:7, speaking about this being our righteousness if we do it. Little children, let no one deceive you. He who practices righteousness is righteous, just as he righteous. Practice makes perfect, right? And in Yeshua, when he was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He answered with Shema, right? And he said to them, you shall love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and prophets. So, love your neighbor, love God and love your neighbor. On these two hang the whole thing. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. So if Yeshua walked perfect, keeping all the commandments, he was abiding in the Father's love. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. It's customary to recite a blessing before engaging in the study of Torah. In the following blessing, note the word le'asot means to engage or to immerse oneself or engross oneself. It comes from the Hebrew root, which means busy. This blessing then is about busying ourselves with the study of Torah, taking heed of God's word, instructions in our lives. And today we're going to be studying a little bit about the sons of disobedience. Join me in a blessing, please. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us in his commandments and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'etzvanu le'asot b'devarei Torah. I threw a little Psalm 119 up there because it's one of my favorite psalms, but just to hit a few things, and one that slapped me in the face about a year ago. Psalm 119, 136. I used to get angry when I saw people not doing stuff, but this kind of helped me out. My eyes shed streams of tears because people do not keep your Torah. It says law, but the word in Hebrew in the Bible there is Torah. Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your law is true. That word is also Torah. I copied these right straight out of the Masoretic, and this is the one that hit me the hardest. Psalm 119, 155. Salvation is far from the wicked, for they do not seek your statutes. You know what that word salvation is? What's the word for salvation? It's Yeshua. Yeshua is far from the wicked. For they do not. That, to me, ought to scare everybody to death. That Yeshua is far from us if we don't seek his statutes.
That's right.
Scares me to death. Alright, little outline before we get started. The last three Torah portions we read about Miriam and Aaron speaking badly about Moses, then a rebellion about the spies, and then the people themselves rebelled. Today we'll read about Korah and their rebellion. A lot of parallels, just as it says in Ecclesiastes, what happened will happen again, nothing new under the sun. Quite a bit of parallels through this and several other characters we see in the Bible. Numbers 16:1. Now Korah, the son of Ishar, the son of Kohath, son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, On, son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took 250 prominent Israelite men who were leaders of the community and representatives in the assembly, and they rebelled against Moses. They came together against Moses and Aaron and told them, "You have gone too far. Everyone in the entire community is holy, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" When Moses heard this, he fell face down. Then he said to Korah and all his followers, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will reveal who belongs to him, who is set apart, and the one he will let come near him. He will let the one he chooses come near him. Korah, all of you and your followers are to do this. Take fire pans, and tomorrow place fire in them and put incense on them before the Lord. Then the man the Lord chooses will be the one who is set apart. It is you Levites who have gone too far." Moses also told Korah, "Now listen, Levites, isn't it enough that you for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the Israelite community to bring you near to himself to perform the work of the Lord's tabernacle, and to stand before the community to minister to them? He has brought you near, and all your fellow Levites who are with you, but you are seeking the priesthood as well. Therefore, it is you and all of your followers who have conspired against the Lord. As Aaron, who is he that you should complain about? As for Aaron, who is he that you should complain about him?" Moses sent for Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they said, "We will not come. Is it not enough that you brought us up from a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? Do you also have to appoint yourself as ruler over us?" Alright, this parasha begins with Korah and 250 leaders of Israel confronting Moses and Aaron. "You've gone too far. It's too much for you. Why do you raise yourselves against the congregation?" If you also remember reading it in there, Moses turns that right back around. It is you who've gone too far. Lays that out for him. Alright, there we have, start with the lineage. We have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who begat Levi. Levi had 3 sons. He asks on here what's their names, but it's right up there. Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. From which of Levi's 3 sons come Israel's priesthood? Kohath, the middle sons, right there. I need to keep the presentation up with the speech. Levi's son Kohath had 4 sons. What are their names? Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. To which did Moses and Aaron belong? They belonged to Amram. And the priesthood fell through Aaron. What's the relationship between Korah and Aaron? Cousins. I'm probably going to push the button one too many times here in a minute. Are all Levites priests of Israel?
Levites?
Yes.
I think they are.
Not
Some are,
priests.
right.
What,
Some are priests. Only the ones that are Aaronic are Aaronic
Come from
priests. So
Aaron.
the only the sons of Aaron are priests.
Okay.
God gave the other Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons for helping maintain the tabernacle and to help offer sacrifices on behalf of the people. So while the priests are Levites, not all Levites are priests. We'll see a little bit of that in the story about the Good Samaritan, right?
Yeah.
They were all Levites, one of them, but probably going into work at a
I
tabernacle.
think what I've got is thinking there is Cohen. People with the
The
last
priest.
name Cohen? Yeah. Usually if there are other Jews in, so would you're a Cohen, pray for me.
Yes, but the Cohen is a priest, right, in Hebrew. But those are all from Aaron. Or, as we already know, Melchizedek.
Melchizedek?
Numbers 3:30. with Elzaphan, the son of Uziel, as chief of the father's house of the clan of the Korahites. Whoops, I went too far. Why was Korach angry with Moses? Jealousy. He wanted to be, all the stuff that I've read was all the folks, including the whole 250, they were all firstborn. So they were all wanting their slice of the firstborn pie. And they figured that slice wasn't big enough, the slice that they'd got.
You would think that he would have learned from Miriam not to push it.
You would think that they all learned from not just Miriam, but from just before that, whenever they went to do it on their own. Then Miriam, Nadab and Abihu, you would think they had learned not to do things their own way, right?
Yeah.
It's always amazed me how you see. I mean, I know that from our perspective, this happened like that. But sometimes there's months and years in some of this stuff, but it's still, if I had seen some of that stuff, I would hope that I would have the intelligence to go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So he was. Who were the three other leaders of the rebellion besides Korah? Dathan,
And
Abiram,
and Eliab?
Dathan, Abiram, and On.
Okay.
From the tribe of Reuben, Jacob's firstborn son, who was disgraced and replaced by Levi. So these folks were, I think that in the layout of the camp, Korah and the Reubenites were right close to each other. So the Reubenites, being firstborn, Reuben, firstborn, sounds like they still wanted that firstborn prize as well. How many men took part in the rebellion?
Close to 300.
250 princes.
250.
250 princes of the people, men of renown, who were perhaps all firstborn sons, which it just says. The men of renown is the same word, and it's pronounced, if I have it correctly, in the Hebrew, it's pronounced Shem. Spelt like Shem, like the name, but Shem, pronounced differently. Same two letters pronounced differently. And that's also the same, it's Shin and Mem, and it's the same Hebrew word, like I was talking to you guys before we got started. It's the same Hebrew word as those that were the sons of God that came down, the men of renown, Shem, that went into the daughters. What was the rebels' stated reason for challenging Moses and Aaron?
He said Moses exalted himself above the Lord's assembly.
They were saying that the whole congregation is holy and that the God was among them, and therefore rejected the idea that Moses and Aaron were exalted above the people. That's very similar to Miriam's complaint, right?
Right.
Some of the other commentaries I've heard on this, and some of the things I've seen reading in this, saying that they were all holy, we're all there. There's a lot of this that I see happening today. That why do we got to do those laws? We're already holy. It's all, we ain't got to mess with that stuff. We don't need it. We're already holy. Because they were rejecting Moses, who was appointed. Moses didn't choose that. He begged not to do it.
But what I got from a person the other day is that we don't have to do that law anymore. If we do, we have to do the whole law, because now we're under grace. And that's, but you can't do the whole law, because there's certain things that the priest has to do and certain things that women have to do. If you're not a priest and if you're not a woman, they don't apply to you.
I use exactly what you do, but did Yeshua keep the whole law? Well, he did keep the whole law, but that word keep is guard.
Yeah,
Did he literally go out and get an ox and start treading out grain with it and take the muzzle off in order to comply with that law? No. And even Paul takes that law and says, this is how this works. You feed those or take care of those that do work for you. It's not just for an ox, it's for us. So when I do that same logic that you talk about, I'm like, Yeshua was not a woman. He couldn't obey the whole law. The whole bunch, and he was not a Levitical priest. I think we've covered it, but what did Moses say Korach's real reason for rebelling? He wanted to be the priest.
He wanted,
Wanted the priesthood as well.
yeah, but it seems to me like if you really want that part, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. And if you just want the position, but don't want to do the responsible things about it, it's not gonna work out.
No?
I hate to be God, that's a hard job.
Takes way more than I could probably get together and do. Alright, number 16:14 through 16:19. Pretty short one. Furthermore, you didn't bring us to the land flowing with milk and honey, or give us inheritance of the fields and vineyards. Will you gouge out the eyes of these men? We will not come. Then Moses became angry and said to the Lord, don't respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them or mistreated a single one of them. So Moses told Korah, you and all of your followers are to appear before the Lord tomorrow. You, they, and Aaron. Each of you is to take his fire pan and place incense in it, and present his fire pan before the Lord. 250 fire pans. You and Aaron are to each to present your fire pan also. Each man took his fire pan, placed fire in it, put incense on it, and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting along with Moses and Aaron. After Korah assembled the whole community against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, the glory of the Lord appeared to the whole community.
Just want to make one little comment. Kind of reminds me of when Elijah was before the priests of Baal. It's kind of like the same thing where you people do what you're going to do, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So he lets them go first, and then he called down fire for God.
I kind of think that they should have known what they were doing, because Nadab and Abihu, they literally had their censers and went and got strange fire and got zapped for doing the wrong thing. And then here you have the high priest, who is Aaron, who has his censer. Who do we think is going to come out of that deal? It's wild that you be there, live it, and then
It kind of
we
plays
can read
itself
it.
out over and over and over again.
Cyclical.
Certain things.
What was the test? What was the test to determine who were chosen to be the priest? Just to bring your censers and burn, and God would show and give signs to show who it was. Which we got ahead of ourselves, because the next question is, who does this test remind you of? Nadab and Abihu, the ones that brought in strange fire. How did Dathan and Abiram describe Egypt? As a land flowing with milk and honey. Think that's kind of ironic that they would describe Egypt as milk and honey when they were told where they were going as milk and honey.
It was milk and honey. Yeah.
They just had spies come back and tell them that it was milk and honey and the land was awesome.
I guess they were living in the past.
Well, if it's not quail, it's something else, right? Alright, number 16, 20 through 43. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, separate yourselves from the community, that I may consume them instantly. But Moses and Aaron fell face down and said, God, the spirits of all flesh, when one man sins, will you vent your wrath on the whole community? The Lord replied to Moses, tell the community, get away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He warned the community, get away now from the tents of these wicked men. Don't touch anything that belongs to them, or you will be swept away because of their sins. So they got away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Meanwhile, Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance of their tents with their wives, children, and infants. Then Moses said, "This is how you will know that the Lord sent me to do all things, and that it was not of my own will. If these men die naturally, as all people would, and suffer the fate of all, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about something unprecedented, and the ground opens its mouth, and swallows them along with all that belongs to them, so that they go down alive into Sheol, then you will know that these men have despised the Lord." Just as he finished speaking all these words, the ground beneath them split open. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households, all Korah's people and all their possessions. They went down alive into Sheol with all that belonged to them. The earth closed over them, and they vanished from the assembly. At their cries, all the people of Israel who were around them fled, because they thought, "The earth will swallow us too." Fire also came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were presenting the incense. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron, priest, to remove the fire pans from the burning debris, because they are holy, and scatter the fire far away. As for the fire pans of those who sin at the cost of their own lives, make them into hammered sheets as plating for the altar, for they presented them before the Lord, and the fire pans are holy. They will be assigned to the Israelites." So Eleazar the priest took the bronze fire pans that those who were burned had presented, and they were hammered into plating for the altar, just as the Lord commanded him through Moses. It was to be a reminder for the Israelites that no unauthorized person outside the lineage of Aaron should approach to offer incense before the Lord and become like Korah and his followers. The next day, the entire Israelite community complained about Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the Lord's people." When the community assembled against them, Moses and Aaron turned toward the tent of meeting, and suddenly the cloud covered it, and the Lord's glory appeared. Moses and Aaron went to the front of the tent of meeting.
Did all of Korah's people die?
Nope.
Find out in the Psalms about the sons of Korah.
The Psalms that are written by the sons of Korah? Well, we should be asking some questions here about one of them, I'll bet you. Which one of them didn't do it? On.
Does it say here?
He's not mentioned.
Oh.
In the ones that die, he's not mentioned.
Okay.
There's a lot of tradition that surrounds him. There's tradition that believes his wife is like, "Hey, we're not doing that. I'm not," you know, that his wife kept him out of trouble.
Okay.
That's not written anywhere. Complete speculation, but that is some tradition. Either way, he's not mentioned in those who died. What did Moses predict for Korah? Dathan, Abiram, their families, and all who followed them. He said if they died a natural death, then it's just him talking, because he doesn't have that power. But if by God's hand the earth opened up and swallowed him, then Moses was not doing that. It was God's hand, and he was appointed to what we already discussed earlier. Moses didn't choose this; he was chosen. He actually asked and begged to get out of it. I'm not a man of big words or good words, so. You know.
But actually, he's being used as a prophet, saying that this is going to happen, and it did.
It did.
You think God had told him beforehand that he was going to open the earth and swallow him? Or do you think Moses just pronounced that?
I don't know. I think either way is possible. He did speak to God face to face, so he could have said, "This is how this is going to go down. Tomorrow, these people are going to act up against you, and this is what you're going to say." He could have. Either way, I think it was the Spirit of God that gave it to him. Your question exactly: were all the sons of Korah killed? It looks like I might have had a wrong name, but no. His three sons, Asir, Elkanah, and Abisaph apparently escaped their father's fate by exercising teshuvah. Indeed, 11 psalms are ascribed to the descendants of Korah, including Psalms 42, 44 through 49, 84 and 85, 87 and 88. Even the great prophet Samuel was a descendant of Korah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which would also make wild sense that the little speech that Moses gave and said, I haven't taken a donkey from him, I haven't done one bit of harm to him. That Samuel, when he's having problems with people, says exactly the same thing.
Same thing?
Almost precise. I think in the Hebrew they're exact same words. All right, some Second Chronicles. First Chronicles 6:22 through 28. The sons of Korah: Aminadab his son, Korah his son, Asir his son, Elkanah his son, Abisaph his son, Asir his son, Kahath his son, Uriel his son, Uzziah his son, and Shaul his son. The sons of Elkanah: Amasai, Ahimoth, Elkanah his son, Zophai his son, Nahath his son, Eliab his son, Jeroham his son, Elkanah his son, the sons of Samuel: Joel the firstborn, and the second Abiah. Okay, there's some out of their songs. Whenever they wrote them, there's some chiastic structure here coming. So why are you cast down, O my soul? I cry out by day and night before you. Come to our help. Glorious things of you are spoken. Your throne, O God, is forever. Revive us again. God is our fortress. My soul longs for the courts of the Lord. And in the middle, God is king over all the earth. Why should I fear in times of trouble?
Is this the software that you're using to get this?
No, this is Paul put this together and put it in a slide. I've had such a busy week, and that's not the only one.
Okay.
Zion, the city of our God.
That's cool.
Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, his holy mountain. Beautiful in elevation is the joy of all earth, Mount Zion. In the far north, the city of the great king. With her citadels, God has made himself known as a fortress. For behold, the kings assembled, they came on together. As soon as they saw it, they were astounded. They were in panic. They took to flight. Trembling took hold of them, their anguish as of a woman in labor. By the east wind you were shattered, by the east wind you shattered the ships of Tarshish. As we have heard, so we have seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, and the city of our God, which God will establish forever. Selah. We have thought on our steadfast love, O God, in midst of your temple. As your name, O God, so praise reaches to the ends of the earth. So your praise reaches to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is filled with righteousness. Let Mount Zion be glad. Let the daughters of Judah rejoice because of your judgments. Walk about Zion, go around her, number her towers. Consider well her ramparts. Go through her citadels, that you may tell the next generation that this is God, our God forever and ever. He will guide us forever.
If I'm not mistaken, Tarshish is the ancient name for Spain. We're out there in the western part of the Mediterranean. Okay.
I thought it was where Paul's area there, where
Tarsus.
Tarsus, yeah. I don't.
Okay. I think, just something I saw on a map.
Certainly may be. You're probably right.
So in the Psalms, summarizing this a little bit, 42, 44, 45, 46, and 47, God's redemption and rule over his creation. 49, 84, 85, 87, and 88, the comfort of God, his desire for his presence, the life he gives, his blessing affirmed, and our prayer. Eternity is in God's hands.
And these are all from the sons of Korah.
Yes, sir. I know you guys read the Midrash all the time, so this question you have. According to the Midrash, what happened to On, one of the rebel leaders?
Go ahead.
I went ahead on that one too. According to the Midrash, according to their discussions, his righteous wife convinced him to repent and forsake the rebellion. What one word would you say describe the motive behind Korach's rebellion?
Jealousy.
That's what
Jealousy
I
or
said, jealousy.
or pride?
Yeah.
I think one begets the other.
The other,
What happened to the 250 rebels after the earth swallowed the rebel leaders' camps?
The fire pans burned up.
The 250 were burned up, almost exactly like Nadab and Abihu, right? That's what I was kind of like, man.
I'm not sure what a fire pin is.
It's probably just a dish that they have to keep, that they can carry incense that's burning on, so it doesn't burn them and doesn't burn through it.
Okay.
What kind of incense did they burn?
If I knew what the fire pin is.
I can find it and search it in here, but we're not supposed to have it today, which is something, we're not supposed to have it any place other than the temple.
Yeah.
Which is something I've been in other congregations where they're slinging incense, and I've always been awful curious if they have tried their hardest to replicate what they were told not to replicate anywhere other than at the temple. That's always one of those little passing thoughts in my head when I've sat someplace like, I don't know if I want to be in there. I'll bet it smells pretty, but
Yeah.
So what?
It's part of the Catholic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they kind of capitalize on it.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna name any names.
Since it's
What happened to the copper fire pans the rebels used to offer incense?
They were hammered into a shield for
The altar.
the altar, yes.
They became holy because they were used to present before God. I think this is some portion of whenever Yeshua is chastising those that talk about swearing by the altar or swearing by the gold or swearing by that's on the altar. They don't know what makes it holy. It's because it was God that it was offered to that it was holy, not in of itself. Before they brought and offered, they were just fire pans, right? Now they're holy, covering the altar. Did the people learn their lesson when they saw Korach's fate?
Probably not.
No. How long did it take them to turn against Moses and Aaron?
Immediately.
Yeah, the next day they were already out there. You killed the people of the Lord. That seemed kind of also similar today. If some judgment comes around, I'm kind of curious of what that's going to look like. Whenever every week you go and tell people they're holy and they're not doing things that they should be, I'm kind of curious what effect that has. Actually, I don't want to see it, but I think we're already seeing it.
I will say that the Lord's working because the recent elections in England and in France, Jews, it wasn't safe to be out on the streets because the leadership was so in it. And the one that came in now is forwarded it. And the same in England. So I thought, God's working here.
I think so, yeah, it's amazing. I'm surprised to hear that it's going that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 622. And they fell on their faces, said, O God, the God of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with all the congregation? All right, number 1644 through 50. And the Lord said to Moses, Get away from this community, that I may consume them instantly. But they fell face down. Then Moses told Aaron, Take your fire pan, place fire from the altar in it, and add incense. Go quickly to the community and make atonement for them, because wrath has come from the Lord, and the plague has begun. So Aaron took his fire pan as Moses had ordered, ran to the middle of the assembly, and saw the plague had begun among the people. After he added incense, he made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was halted. But those who died from the plague numbered 14,700, in addition to those who died because of the Korah incident. Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance to the tent of meeting, since the plague had been halted.
You know, in the book of Revelation, it talks about angel of the Lord, the censer, throwing it down, kind of like parallels with this situation. I just see parallels.
So, something that you just asked a minute ago, Alvin, how do you think Moses knew? Did you think he predicted it or knew God? He said here that the plague has begun without anything either.
Right.
So I'm kind of, if the thought that just came across my mind while I was reading that from that question was, if Moses is filled with the Holy Spirit, he's been spending that time with him, and then the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are one. They all know, I mean, they're one. You don't separate them. And yet they're not going to say anything different. They all know the same thing at the same time, correct? So maybe Moses will benefit from the Spirit being with him. He already knows what God's got coming. Not of his own, but because of the Spirit. What happened to those who complained about the fate of the rebels? God, I went too far. What happened to those who complained about the fate of the rebels?
Did you say the very next day?
Yes, a plague. 14,000 of them were killed by a plague. How was the intervention of the plague? What did they do to intervene to stop the plague?
Burn incense amongst them.
Aaron, he told Aaron, take incense on a censer. The one of the things that I found very important out of that was from the altar. Not strange fire, from the altar. To take his incense censer to run among the people to save them from the plague. And here on the screen in the scripture, so Aaron took his fire pan, as Moses had ordered, and ran to the middle of the assembly, and saw that the plague had begun among the people. After he added incense, he made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was halted.
So if he hadn't have done that, then they would have all died.
Yes.
So he's like a savior in this aspect.
Well, and you were quoting Revelation earlier,
Yeah,
correct?
I found that interesting.
Well, what is it the incense is in Revelation? Associated with prayer, right?
Okay.
So I can see that being that Aaron went prepared and then went in the middle and prayed.
Okay.
That's the parallel that I can. Doesn't say that. That's a parallel that I can see.
Yeah. I know what's there, I just don't know exactly where it is.
Took a lot of courage for Moses to ignore the Lord's command, didn't it? To get away from them instantly. Or, so get away from this community that I may consume them instantly. Moses didn't do that. He and Aaron fell face down. And Moses
And
told
prayed.
Aaron-
And
Yeah, because Moses is an intercessor.
just like the prophet like unto Moses.
Yeah.
Number 17, 1 through 9. The Lord instructed Moses, speak to the Israelites and take one staff from each ancestral house, 12 staffs from all the leaders of their ancestral houses. Write each man's name on his staff. Write Aaron's name on Levi's staff, because there must be one staff for the head of each ancestral house. Then place them at the tent of meeting in front of the testimony where I meet with you. The staff of the man I choose will sprout, and I will rid myself of the Israelites' complaints that they have been making about you. So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and each of their leaders gave him a staff, one for each of the leaders of their ancestral houses, 12 staffs in all. Aaron's staff was among them. Moses placed the staff before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. The next day Moses entered the tent of the testimony and saw that Aaron's staff, representing the house of Levi, had sprouted, formed buds, blossomed, and produced almonds. Moses then brought out all the staff of the Lord's presence to all the Israelites. They saw them, and each man took his own staff. What was the final test to vindicate God's choice of Aaron as priest? What did God do to show who He has chosen?
Had the staff.
Had them bring their staff,
Yeah,
and Aaron's staff budded.
but it produced almonds.
Yeah, Paul had the black and white, and then it went
There's
color.
another thing about almonds and almond trees in the scriptures that kind of coincides with this. I don't know what it is with them, but I've heard it before. If
It's,
you find out, let me know.
the calyxes on the menorah are all almond blossoms, are they not?
Mhm.
One of the things that I saw that's wild about the menorah is there's 4 calyxes on the base before you get to the branches.
Okay.
So if you take from creation, days 1,000 years, 1,000 a day, there's 4 days. The 4th day is when Yeshua comes, and the 5th day is when the branches go out and the spirits get. Because his ministry doesn't start until the 5th day. He
Okay.
came right at the end of the 4th day. Once he grows 30 years old, he's into the beginning of the 5th day. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to back this up because there's a Paulism here. Look at the picture real quick. So kind of
Budded staff.
yeah. So don't you get the picture? It was in black and white. Now it's in full color.
Yeah.
You get the picture? God rules, and he who chooses his leaders is not within your authority. What did God tell Moses to do with his staff? With Aaron's staff. What did God tell Moses to do with Aaron's staff?
Put it in the ark.
Yeah,
Where later there will be some manna too, right?
right.
Did you ever figure out how they got a staff in the ark?
Nope.
Unless the staff was awfully short.
That's probably one of those that had a brass joint in the middle.
Yeah, that's what
Maybe it was a trifold staff.
That's right.
Maybe they had folding almond branches back then.
Like one of those
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to walk up and try to uncover the lid to look at it either.
I was thinking you messed with it up.
Some fella named Uzzah, I think, kind of made some little mistake like that.
Yeah.
All right, number 17, 10, 18 through 20. Good long one here. The Lord told Moses, put Aaron's staff back in the front of the testimony to be kept as a sign for the rebels, so that you may put an end to their complaints before me, or else they will die. So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. Then the Israelites declared to Moses, look, we're perishing, we're lost, we're all lost. Anyone who comes near the Lord's tabernacle will die. We will all perish. The Lord said to Aaron, you, your sons, and your ancestral house will be responsible for sin against the sanctuary. You and your sons will be responsible for sin involving your priesthood. But also bring your relatives with you from the tribe of Levi, your ancestral tribe, so that they may join you and assist you and your sons in the front of the tent of testimony. They are to perform duties for you and for the whole tent. They must not come near the sanctuary equipment or the altar, otherwise both they and you will die. They are to join you and the guard the tent of the meeting, doing all the work at the tent, but no unauthorized person may come near you. You are to guard the sanctuary and altar so that wrath may not fall on the Israelites again. Look, I have selected your fellow Levites from the Israelites as a gift for you, signed by the Lord to work at the tent of meeting. But you, your sons, will carry out your priestly responsibilities for everything concerning the altar for what is inside the veil, and you will do that work. I am giving you the work of the priesthood as a gift, but an unauthorized person who comes near the sanctuary will be put to death. Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, look, I have put you in charge of contributions brought to me. As for all the holy offerings of the Israelites, I have given them to you and your sons as a portion and a permanent statute. A portion of the holiest offerings kept from the fire will be yours. Every one of their offerings that they gave me, whether the grain offering, sin offering, or restitution offering, will be most holy for you and your sons. You are to eat it as a most holy offering. Every male may eat it. It is to be holy for you. The contribution of their gifts also belongs to you. I have given all the Israelites presentation offerings to you and to your sons and daughters as a permanent statute. Every ceremonial clean person in your house may eat it. I am giving you all the best of fresh olive oil, new wine, and grain, which the Israelites give to the Lord as their first fruits. First fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to the Lord, belong to you. Every clean person in your house may eat them. Everything in Israel that is permanently dedicated to the Lord belongs to you. The firstborn of every living thing, man or animal, presented to the Lord belongs to you. But you must certainly redeem the firstborn man and redeem the firstborn of an unclean animal. You will pay the redemption price for a month-old male according to your assessment, 5 shekels of silver by the standard sanctuary shekel, which is 20 gerahs. However, you must not redeem the firstborn of an ox, sheep, or a goat. They are holy. You are to sprinkle their blood on the altar and burn their fat as a fire offering for a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But their meat belongs to you. It belongs to you like the breast of the presentation offering and the right thigh. I give to you and your sons and daughters all the holy contributions that the Israelites present to the Lord as a permanent statute. It is a permanent covenant of salt before the Lord for you as well as your offspring. The Lord told Aaron, you will not have an inheritance in their land. There will be no portion among them for you. I am your portion and inheritance among the Israelites.
What I want to know is about redeeming for the firstborn of an unclean animal. How does that play in? Instead of a clean
How's it done, or how's it?
Why is it for an unclean animal and not just for clean animals? I would think it's all clean animals, but this says unclean animals, so it's kind of got me.
While I was reading all that, and I'm trying to remember, because now my brain's fried after asking that question. I was trying to remember how the firstborn or the unclean animal was redeemed. And I think it's a substitutionary sacrifice, that they sacrifice a lamb or something for it. Is that right? Remember?
Okay.
So I think, and so all the stuff that I was seeing as I was reading it is every one of those things. The firstborn, who's the firstborn of everything? Yeshua, right? So the firstborn had to be redeemed every time, and then its blood was sacrificed and sprinkled on the altar. Again, Yeshua, he's the one that paid that price. I think that this is over and over teaching us that it's the firstborn of all pays the price.
Okay.
That's the one that paid the price. At the beginning of this, I've watched quite a few things on the Melchizedek priesthood, and the way I understand everything is the Melchizedek priesthood goes back, and like Adam is the first one. Then you have Cain and Abel. Abel was killed, so then it moves to Shem. So the ones that aren't, even when you get down and boil down to Esau was supposed to be king, priest, firstborn.
Yeah, he was the first one. This plays out. It's a pattern.
But he did the bad thing to disqualify himself. He sold his birthright, king, priest, firstborn. He sold that birthright for a bowl of soup. And then you get into Jacob. So in here, while I was reading it, I hadn't seen this before now, but God was telling Aaron, you are responsible for your brethren. So what did Cain say after he got busted?
Am I my brother's keeper?
Am I my brother's keeper? And part of being king, priest, firstborn, part of that responsibility is you are your brother's keeper. You will sacrifice for your brother. You don't just, it's not my problem. You sacrifice. You love your brothers yourself and give your life if that's the cost appropriate to the situation. That's when I was reading down through, I was like, man, there it is. After the rebellion was entirely quelled by God, what was the reaction of the surviving Israelites? They were all really afraid that they were just going to die. They get too close to God, they're going to die.
Yeah.
To me, seeing that's a lot of what is taught today, that the whole Old Testament was barbaric, and they were afraid of that. But they don't turn around and look and see that they brought it on themselves. It was their rebellion that caused it, not just God just feels like he's having a bad day. That's not how that works. How did God instruct and reassure the survivors? We were just talking about it a little bit. He reminded them that Aaron and the sons would bear the guilt of the sanctuary, but the people were to support the priests through contributions rendered for their servants.
Okay.
So all the best of the oil, all the best of the wine, and all the grain, the first fruits that they give shall be given to the priests. The people were also reminded to redeem all the firstborn sons by giving 5 shekels to the priests and to offer regular tithes to the Levites.
The priests doing what they did during the time of Yeshua, but it seemed like the rabbis took over. Yeah. And it's got to go back to the priests. Is that right? It hasn't happened yet.
All right, Numbers 18:21 through 32. Look, I've given the Levites every tenth in Israel as an inheritance in return for the work they do, the work of the tent of meeting. The Israelites must never again come near the tent of meeting, or they will incur guilt and die. The Levites will do the work of the tent of meeting, and they will bear the consequences of their sin. The Levites will not receive an inheritance among the Israelites. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations. For I have given them a tenth that all the Israelites present to the Lord as a contribution for their inheritance. That is why I told them that they would not receive an inheritance among the Israelites. The Lord instructed Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you receive from the Israelites the tenth that I have given you as your inheritance, you must present part of it as an offering to the Lord, a tenth of a tenth. Your offering will be credited to you as if it were your grain from the threshing floor or the full harvest of the winepress. You are to present an offering to the Lord from every tenth you receive from the Israelites. Give some of it to Aaron the priest as an offering to the Lord. You must present the entire offering due to the Lord from all your gifts. The best part of the tenths is to be consecrated. Tell them further, once you have presented the best part of the tenth, and it is credited to you Levites as the produce of the threshing floor of the winepress, then you and your household may eat it anywhere. It is your wage in return for your work at the tent of meeting. You will not incur guilt because once you have presented the best part of it, excuse me. You will not incur guilt because of it once you have presented the best part of it, but you must not defile the Israelites' holy offerings so that you will not die. Korach is mentioned in the book of Jude as a type of false teacher. Korach pretended to be a man of the people by arguing with the congregation as holy, i.e. a kingdom of priests and a holy people. His accusation that Moses and Aaron exalted themselves above the people was therefore hypocritical, since we know that his inner motivation was one of envy and lust for power, and indeed he wanted to be the high priest of Israel himself. What characteristics do you see in Korah that might present in other false teachers? Do we see that in the big churches today?
I don't see.
Yeah. I've seen one of those big churches, and I'll probably get slick. One of those big churches I've seen the individual surprisingly teach against eating pork. And he was doing some of the right things. I was quite amazed when I see it, and I'm kind of curious if somebody didn't make a voiceover, and it just seems that way. But he was talking about, God gave us these things. It's not just because he didn't want you to enjoy it. It's because he cares about you, and pork's bad for you. So at my house, we eat turkey bacon. That's what we do there. So that's some of the stuff. I should have went and gotten coffee.
I just want to make this comment. If we hadn't ever started reading the Bible all the way through, from start to finish, which I never really did until I came to this church, then I wouldn't start seeing all these parallels.
That's right.
Things coming,
All fits together.
You said one of my favorite words these days right there, which is parallel. The thing that I find, since we're talking about characteristics that's out and around there, is a metaphor. And then, what does metaphor mean? It means it's kind of like that, but it's not exactly. Kind of, but not real. Just a little bit, but not, there's a disconnect there. So I think that whenever we are taught that Yeshua is the Word in the flesh, there's people that teach that's a metaphor. It's kind of, but it's different. Well, I think it's a parallel truth. It's the same thing.
down through the ages.
Right. So if we say Yeshua is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he's the Word in the flesh, guess what else is the same yesterday, today, and forever?
Yeah.
The Word.
Okay. If I can quote Brad Scott, and she do it quite a bit, talking about the water from the mountain. It's very clear, pure when it's coming down. By the time it gets down the bottom, it's all muddy.
It's brown, thick, yucky, and no good to drink anymore. In the Torah, I wish I knew that. I wish I could remember that. But Torah, the word Torah, also comes from rain, right? It's the rain that comes down and nourishes and washes. That's another thing that I've seen. And part of this, I think I skipped over it, but it talks about, or whenever we say the blessing, sanctified by His commandments.
And we also say latter rain a lot of times.
Yes.
And that kind of.
But when we say the blessing and we say that we are sanctified by His commandments, I've seen people have great difficulty with. It's not the commandments that sanctify you. It's Yeshua that sanctifies you.
Okay.
I agree. There's truth in it. It's not untrue. But Yeshua is the Word, and He is the commandments. And when we go in and look, and it talks about baptizing in the Spirit or washing the bride with the Word. If He's washing the bride with the Word, everything I can see in that, He is sanctifying her, because the Word coming out and baptizing, that's what makes holy, is Him and His Spirit and the products of His Spirit. But it's from the Spirit, nothing else. It's only Yeshua. There is no other way. Grace by faith, no matter what it is, it's the only way. And now Calvin. And so I didn't preview this, so I have no clue. So hopefully I'll get the same reaction you guys do. Mom says death is as natural as birth, and it's all part of the life cycle. She says we don't really understand it, but there are many things we don't understand, and we just have to do the best we can with the knowledge we have. I guess that makes sense. But don't you go anywhere. Don't worry.
True.
Alright, for next week, Hukat. Decree. It's another thing that I've kind of gotten off on, is the meaning of words. The Hoch and Mishpatim, right? Decrees and judgments.
Okay.
Well, decrees and judgments is also kind of the category of love God with our heart, soul, strength, and mind. That's decree. That's God's an authority to give that decree. All the stuff that are decrees, you're loving God by doing the decrees. But the judgments you have to take and make a decision over. Like I judge based on how I want to be treated, how I should be treating you. A judgment, not a decree. You just do this every time. You have judgments. And the final blessing. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua our Messiah, and life everlasting, set in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher natan lanu Toret emet, Yeshua Mishakenu, Bekai Olam, Neta Betekenu, Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. No thunder. I didn't get it up there.
It's all right. You don't know third try.
Well, I think something else, but there it is. Oops, I went too far. I think the transition between Apple and Microsoft might have got the sequence backwards there a little bit. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Why do you think those words are highlighted the way they are? I can't figure any pattern.
Well, I think Paul is highlighting that the narrow gate, he's trying to emphasize, enter by the narrow gate. And because see it repeats down below.
Yeah.
You have the narrow gate and the wide gate, and you have those. And he did it both places. Those who find are few. So I think he's just trying to emphasize the salient points, as he would say.
him next time. You're probably right, but I was just trying